Welcome. In front of me I have the Nothing Phone 3A Pro, and today I'll be going over unboxing along with a quick look at the device itself. So let's just get straight into it. So I do have a pull tab right here. Kind of like the design, so just unbox right here. Cool. And inside we get, okay, this little box. Welcome to Nothing. Isn't this exciting? Whatever. No one really cares about that. Then we get the phone itself. There we go. And sorry for that. And wow, that is a chunkers right here at the back. I do have to say, this color of it looks fantastic. Now, videos don't really make it look that great, I would say. At least I wasn't too excited, but in person this looks fire. So yeah, anyway, let's just boot it up. Now, under here, we will have our cable. So it's a Type-C to Type-C. And you might notice that it's not using these kind of like plastic, clear plastic casing right here around it. That just made the other one, the previous phone, look a little bit nicer. But apparently they're just keeping that away from like the A lineup, and they're gonna keep it still. They're gonna still add that kind of design for the more premium versions of their devices, which aren't the A lineup. So, no, we also have something in here. Right, we have the SIM ejector, the clear little one. I always like that one. It just looks so nice. It's just a little detail for most of these. Like, they didn't need to include this, but they did. For instance, also with the charging cables, like they have branding of Nothing right here. They didn't need to include that, but they did. Could have just added a generic AliExpress cable and no one would care. But they're always taking it one step a little bit further to just give you that nicer experience. Now, talking about the device, it's a pretty decent phone. I should probably start off by saying I might be just a little bit biased towards these devices just because I find them to be very appealing in terms of what they offer for the price. So automatically I'm just kind of liking that. I feel like the company isn't trying to bend me over right away. So obviously that's a great benefit for everyone. And let's talk about the display right here. So I'm gonna go quickly to the setup just so we can see the bezels right here, because these aren't the nicest looking bezels. I want to make that very clear. So let's just quickly go through it. Yes, cool. Skip, just come on. Let's stick with the default one. And there we go. Now if I open up settings and turn off the dark mode, there we go. Now we can see the bezels. Now they are not egregious by any means. They still look pretty decent, and considering this device costs about $400 US, it offers a lot of things for that price, and I feel the price is very much justifiable. And when you compare it to something like, for instance, the Samsung Samsung A56 even, which is the lower end from S, these devices have already a bit either similar or in certain cases bigger. I think the bottom bezel is bigger than it is on here, so yeah, there's like a visible difference, I would say. And this device costs as much as the S56. Now, when you compare it to something like the sorry, when I said S before I meant A. This is the S25, and I kind of want to give you a comparison of what the bezels look like on basically flagship Samsung phone. But anyway, so these are going to look better than what the A lineup of Samsung has, which is very surprising as the device costs as much while performs better because it just has everything better in here. So starting off with the display, We have an AMOLED display, 120Hz refresh rate, HDR10 Plus certified, and a peak brightness of 3000 nits. Boasts an 88% screen to body ratio and a pixel density of 387 pixels per inch, with a Panda glass right here and pre-applied screen protector on here. Samsung never does that. You know, keep piece of plastic added to their devices. Oh no, that's extra cent that we needed to take away from our earning. So yeah, thank you nothing for putting on a screen protector on your phone out of the box. And if we flip it over, that's kind of where the this specific version, the Pro, stands out. So it has a pretty decent camera setup right here. So the main sensor will be a 50 megapixel f1.9 aperture, 24mm wide. Now there's another main sensor, which is a 50 megapixel f2.6 aperture, 70mm periscope telephoto. So we have a wide one right here, periscope right here, and then lastly we have the 8 megapixel ultra wide, which is this tiny one right here. So the nice thing here is the periscope and the wide lens are basically the same kind of size, meaning 50 megapixels, so they can both be considered as a main sensor, and they are both going to pop out some fantastic photos. And yeah, you can just kind of have a loose lens or close-up zooms, so it is pretty fantastic here. So this is also one of the differences over the non-Pro version. Non-Pro version doesn't have the periscope lens, so we're only limited to the ultra wide and a wide one, if I remember correctly. But definitely there is no periscope, so you won't get that, like you won't be able to capture further away subjects with basically still full kind of lossless quality. And additionally, the non-Pro version doesn't have this plate glued to the back, as this is kind of sticking out, as you can see. So this is pretty hefty right here. Now I have to say one thing, a critique right here when it comes down to the design of this. There are other devices that do this kind of bump a little bit better in terms of masking it. So here, nothing is going for this very clean, simplistic, modern, minimalistic look. And because of that, it's just slab of glass at the back with slab of lens protrusion. But if you give me a moment, actually, nope, never mind. I have the phone right next to me. So I'm gonna bring into view Vivo X200 Pro, and there it is. Now, price-wise, these phones actually compare, I would say, as both of them will cost about the same. This one actually might be just a bit more expensive, but this one is a flagship, but you would be getting it probably from AliExpress. So, you know, that kind of becomes iffy if you need to do some kind of a repair if it gets damaged. But price-wise, these devices are actually very close to each other. But I want to point out one thing, which is the camera bump. Both of them have a massive camera bump, but this phone has it masked with several different like steps. So we have first kind of step right here, then a second, and then the curved glass kind of masks it as well. And even though this is pretty hefty to the point that I can also grab the phone by it, just like I can do here, it's not as visible, I would say, in person because of that like stair-stepping effect almost. So simplicity right here just kind of makes it look a bit more big compared to some other phones that have basically as big of a camera bump, but they're doing some kind of ways to mask it. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's also talk about the selfie right here, which is a 50 megapixel f2.2 aperture 24mm wide lens. Now with the back cameras, you can record videos up to 4K at only 30 frames unfortunately, but 1080p will get you to 60 with slow motion of 120, while the selfie right here also gets you 4K 30 and 1080p 30. So selfie, no 60. Okay, now continuing on with the internals, the phone comes with 5000 mAh battery, 50 watts of charging speed, which beats out something like this hunk of junk, which is a flagship phone from Samsung that charges at literally half the speed, It's just like a middle finger from Samsung at this point. So yeah, this charges twice as fast, but it does not have any kind of wireless charging, unfortunately. And comes internally with either 8 gigabytes of RAM with 128 gigabytes of storage. You can get it also with 256 and 8 gigabytes or 256 and 12 gigabytes of RAM. Now, those are all three options that you have access to, and you notice that even the highest one only comes with 256 gigs of storage. Personally, I find this to be a bit on a lacking side, considering this is the highest storage you can get, and there is no expandable storage. So just to kind of showcase this, come on, there we go. There's only dual SIM tray, which I actually want to point that out. Just notice this one taking it out. They even went as far as to use this kind of glyphy, kind of dot kind of font that they use on inside of their system for the SIM. You can see right here, SIM 1. Not sure if this is visible that much, so I'm gonna try to bring it closer. Come on. Oh, there we go. As you can see, it is using the same kind of font, which is a nice touch, even for things like SIM tray. So, with the internals kind of out of the way, there is one last thing to mention, which is the processor powering this device, and that is going to be the Snapdragon 7S Gen 3, which I think is actually the newest Snapdragon 7 that you can get right now. Could be wrong, maybe there's Gen 4. But I don't think so, and even if it's not, it's very close there to the newest kind of mid-range processor that Snapdragon offers, or Qualcomm more precisely. So this phone will blast through anything that you throw at it. You don't need to worry about that. It's going to be a blazing fast phone. I also want to add that, if I remember correctly, the Nothing Phone 3A, just a normal one, not a Pro, has the same processor, but I'm gonna quickly check it, and yes, it does. So both of the devices, the difference between these two phones, the Pro and non-Pro, is primarily with the camera. Everything else seems to be basically the same. So pretty good processor right here, good battery, good charging speed, a good display, good cameras, and all that for easily $400 US. I honestly have to say that this is a pretty good package. If you're looking for a cheaper phone that still performs really well, and at this point, honestly, even the mid-range phones are fast enough to the point that if you don't need that specific boost in power, like for instance the Samsung S lineup has with their 8 Elite processors, then there is no reason to go for those flagships. This phone has very good camera setup. Again, it might not compare to some like actual just straight phones that are made to pop the best photos possible, for instance like the Vivo X200 Pro. This phone will I don't even need to check, but I'm pretty sure it's going to outperform these cameras right here. Or for instance, probably something like Samsung's with their processing that they do internally for the photos. It might not be as good, but when you consider the fact that, for instance, the S25 Ultra costs $1,200 and this costs $400, I think everyone will be okay with having slightly less sharp photos and save up more than double the price. So yeah, this is a fantastic package, and I have to give props to Nothing for just hitting it straight out of the park. This is pretty good. The only downside here that I find is the build quality of this phone. Again, this is an A lineup, but something about the plastic frame right here, just it feels okay in hand, but it just also feels cheapish. I think I prefer something like an aluminum frame right here, just to make it feel a little bit nicer. Now this would add to the cost obviously, and these phones try to be relatively cheap. And another thing is the little action button that we have right here that can kind of assign some kind of specific actions to. The plastic on this coating just makes it feel like almost a Chinese little toy that has some kind of like weird almost silver like coated buttons. This is on the same kind of playing field, I would say. And compared to the other buttons, like the volume rockers right here and the power button, this one protrudes, has a convex kind of shape, and it just takes away, like, you know, it looks different than these ones. These ones look more metallic, nice. This just looks like a, like it doesn't even belong on this phone to me. Now it's something that you won't be seeing that much because it is on the side. And another thing that I have a problem with is the position of this button. Initially, when I try to boot up the device, I would be pressing this button, as it is just kind of easier for me to access this one, and it's the first button that I feel when holding it. This one, the actual power button is a little bit higher, so this would have had a better place, maybe on the other side, somewhere higher out of your reach, like this kind of easy overreach. It's literally taking the space where I would say power button would have been. So yeah, there we go. So that's the new Nothing Phone 3A Pro, and if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.